Officer Waldman.
Morning.
Just have a few questions for you.
Sure.
The night of December 7th, 1996. Is it not true that you were traveling on California Avenue with your partner in a completely unmarked car?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that you were traveling very slowly?
Correct. Very slowly, we were looking for a burglar.
And is it not true that a vehicle came up behind you and indicated it wanted to pass and it was not able to?
It seemed to, yeah, that it wanted to pass.
Okay. Is it not true that...
I don't know whether it was able to or not, but...
Is it not true that you did not pull over and allow it to pass?
Not on that street.
On California, is it not true that you did not? Okay.
Correct.
And is it not true that during this, that also on duty, you are undercover police officers, you do not wear a uniform, there's nothing indicating you're police based on your appearance?
I mean, well, since that time, I've joined the Marines.
On December 7th, 1996, is it not true that
Yeah.
you were dressed as a plainclothes officer, nothing indicating you were a police officer at all?
Correct. On that particular night.
Right. And did you not turn onto Evergreen Avenue?
Absolutely.
Okay. And did you pull off at any point?
Absolutely. I, turned to my partner and I was like, hey, this guy, he's...
Right.
Want to let him pass.
Is it not true? Okay. Is it not true that Mr. Ramirez then pulled up next to you?
Yes, and not only did he pull up next to us, he pulled up in front of us, sort of on an angle, cutting off for forward motion, so we couldn't really proceed.
Okay. Well, on an angle, cutting you off.
Yes, sir.
And you're sure about that?
Yes, sir. That's my recollection.
Okay. Could you please read for the court Sergeant Sloan Thomas's police report of the incident? Could you please read this line right here? Both, starting with both.
Both cars were in a position where they could easily continue on their way.
They could easily continue on their way. This was Sergeant Sloan's report of the incident, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is it not true that at some point, Mr. Levy, your partner, Officer Levy, was driving the car, Officer Levy was driving the car, correct? Your partner?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that at some point your partner, Officer Levy, engaged in an altercation with Mr. Ramirez?
I believe so. Yes, he jumped out and Ramirez had a knife and they were fighting and not punching each other, but they were grabbing each other and jostling. Yes.
Okay. Well, let me just so we have it clear for the court, introducing the deposition testimony of Officer Levy. Could you please read page 51, this sentence? There was an altercation of some kind between Levy and Ramirez, right? Could you read his answer?
Yes, sir.
All right. So it was an altercation. Okay, so after this altercation, is it not true that you allege that there was a knife on the scene similar to this one?
Yes, sir.
And have you ever seen, did anyone alter this knife in any way at the scene that you saw?
No, sir.
And you do allege that this knife, or one similar, was the one used to stab Mr. Levy, correct?
It looks consistent, yes.
Okay. All right, and could you please read this line from Sergeant Sloan Thomas's report of the incident? I sent
the knife to forensics for testing. The report indicated that there were no discernible fingerprints or blood.
And yet, it's your position that this knife, or one similar to it, was the one used to stab Mr. Levy, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And is it not true in your experience as a police officer that when you stab someone it leaves blood?
Generally speaking, yes.
And it's not true that in your position as a police officer, when someone fingers a knife with their bare hands, it generally leaves fingerprints?
In most cases, yes.
And you say in most cases, is it not true that unless you're wearing gloves or something like that, it would generally leave fingerprints?
Generally speaking, yes.
Okay, and was Mr. Ramirez wearing gloves that you saw?
I don't remember.
Okay. Now, after, and you shot Mr. Ramirez at some point, correct? Yes or no? Correct. Did you shoot Mr. Ramirez?
Unfortunately, yes, I had to.
Okay. And did you call it in at any point?
Absolutely, yeah. After Levy had been stabbed and Ramirez dropped to the ground. Yes, I ran to the car and called 911.
Okay. And approximately how much time lapsed between the time you called and the time emergency arrived?
I believe it was approximately 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay. And did you tend to Mr. Ramirez at all during those 10 minutes?
No, sir. I was going to leave that to the medics.
So no help at all in 10 minutes, even though you had just shot him, correct?
No, correct.
Okay. Is it not true that your initial call to 911 gave them the wrong street address?
I believe they later told me that was the case, yes.
So it was the wrong address, correct?
Correct.
Okay.